The gunshot shattered the mansion window just as Jungkook pulled you into his arms and whispered, "If you want to survive tonight, you have to trust the man you were warned never to trust." You barely had time to breathe. The chandelier above you swung violently, scattering fractured light across the marble floor as another bullet tore through the curtains. The smell of smoke flooded the room. Somewhere beyond the walls, men were shouting, footsteps thundered through the corridors, and an alarm screamed into the night. Jungkook pushed you behind a stone pillar. "Stay here." His voice was low, controlled, almost frighteningly calm. You grabbed his sleeve. "Where are you going?" He looked down at your hand. For one brief second, something vulnerable crossed his face. Then the cold mask returned. "To make sure nobody gets close to you." He disappeared into the darkness. You heard 3 gunshots. Then silence. That was the moment you finally understood what everyone had been trying to tell you since the day you arrived at your aunt's mansion. Jungkook was not simply your cousin. He was the heir to one of the most feared criminal organizations in the city. And somehow, impossibly, you had become the one thing he could not control. You had come to the mansion only 6 weeks earlier. Your aunt had called unexpectedly one rainy afternoon, asking you to stay with her because of a family emergency. She had never explained what the emergency was. She only said that you needed somewhere safe. You remembered standing at the enormous iron gates that first evening, staring at the mansion beyond them. Then the front doors opened. Jungkook stood there. Black shirt. Black trousers. Dark hair falling naturally across his forehead. A silver watch on his wrist. He looked at you without expression. Your aunt hurried toward you. "You're finally here." You smiled nervously. "I'm sorry for coming without much notice." "You have nothing to apologize for." Your aunt glanced toward Jungkook. He said nothing. You looked at him. His eyes remained on yours. "Hello." That was all. He turned and walked away. You watched him disappear down the corridor. Your aunt sighed. "Don't take it personally." "Is he always like that?" "Worse." You laughed softly. She didn't. That should have been your first warning. The mansion had rules. You were not allowed into the East Wing. You were not allowed to enter Jungkook's office. You were not allowed to leave the property without security. You were never to speak to strangers who approached the gates. And most importantly, your aunt told you never to ask Jungkook about his work. You agreed. For the first few days, you barely saw him. He left before sunrise and returned after midnight. Sometimes you heard his footsteps in the corridor. Sometimes you saw him standing alone beside the enormous windows of the library, drinking black coffee while staring at the city. He had strange habits. He always removed his watch before sitting down to read. He tapped his thumb against the side of his coffee cup whenever he was irritated. He hated loud music. He never slept with the curtains open. And whenever thunderstorms came, he became unusually quiet. You began noticing small things about him because there was something unsettling about a person who seemed determined not to be noticed. One night, you found him in the kitchen. You had gone downstairs for water. He was standing barefoot beside the counter. You froze. He looked at you. "You're awake." "So are you." He glanced at the clock. "It's 2 in the morning." "I couldn't sleep." He poured himself more coffee. "You shouldn't drink that this late." His eyebrow lifted. "Are you giving me advice?" "Yes." Something almost resembling amusement appeared in his eyes. "You're brave." "I didn't mean anything by it." "I know." He walked past you. Then stopped. "How do you know?" "I checked." "Why?" His expression became unreadable. "Because I check every window in this house." He continued walking. You watched him disappear. At the time, you thought it was strange. Later, you realized it was the beginning. Jungkook began noticing everything. If you skipped breakfast, he knew. If you stayed awake too late, he knew. If you went outside without a jacket, a coat appeared on your chair when you returned. When you mentioned once that you liked strawberry cake, The kitchen suddenly had strawberry cake every Sunday. You never asked him to do these things. He never admitted doing them. Then there was the incident at the university. A classmate named Miho offered to drive you home. You accepted because the rain was heavy. When you arrived at the mansion, Jungkook was standing in the entrance hall. His expression was terrifying. Who was that? You removed your wet shoes. My classmate. Why was he driving you? Because it was raining. Jungkook's jaw tightened. You could have called me. I didn't think I needed permission. His eyes narrowed. You don't. Then why are you angry? I am not angry. You look angry. I always look like this. Despite yourself, you laughed. For a second, his expression softened. Then he noticed the jacket you were wearing. It wasn't yours. Whose is that? Miho's. Silence. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Jungkook walked toward you. He stopped only inches away. Take it off. You stared at him. Excuse me. It's wet. You're lying. His eyes darkened. You don't know what I'm thinking. No. You looked directly into his eyes. And I don't think I want to. He stepped aside. Good. That night, you heard a car leaving the mansion at 3 in the morning. The next morning, Miho didn't come to class. You didn't see him again for several days. When he finally returned, he wouldn't look at you. You asked what happened. He only said he had received a warning. You knew exactly who had sent it. You confronted Jungkook that evening. You threatened him. He continued reading the document in his hand. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie. His eyes lifted. You should be careful about accusing people. Then tell me I'm wrong. He closed the folder. I can't. Your heart sank. Why? Because I don't want men like him near you. You don't get to decide who I talk to. No. His voice was quieter now. But I can decide who gets close enough to hurt you. You stared at him. Why do you care so much? He didn't answer. You waited. Finally, he said. Because you're family. But something about the way he said it made you realize that wasn't the whole truth. The truth arrived 3 nights later. You couldn't sleep. The storm outside was violent, rain striking the windows like handfuls of stones. You wandered into the library. A book had fallen from one of the shelves. When you picked it up, a photograph slipped onto the floor. You froze. It was you. You were much younger. Maybe 15. Standing beside your father. You turned the photograph over. A date was written on the back. 7 years ago. Your hands trembled. Why did Jungkook have a photograph of you from 7 years ago? You searched the desk. There were dozens of documents. Most were written in codes you couldn't understand. Then you found another photograph. Jungkook. Younger. Standing outside your family's old house. You heard footsteps. You turned. Jungkook stood in the doorway. His face changed when he saw the photograph. Put it down. You held it tighter. You knew me before I came here. Yes. How? He entered the room. Slowly. I was watching your family. Why? Because your father was involved with my father. You stared at him. My father knew your family? Yes. What happened? Jungkook looked toward the rain-covered window. My father ordered me to watch him. And you did. I was 20. His voice was flat. I followed orders. You swallowed. Did you hurt him? Jungkook looked at you. No. The answer came immediately. But someone did. Your chest tightened. Who? He didn't answer. You stepped closer. Jungkook. His eyes closed. Your father discovered something. What? A ledger. You frowned. The room seemed colder. He wanted to expose them. What happened? Jungkook looked at the photograph in your hand. Your father disappeared. My aunt told me he died in an accident. She lied. You felt as though the floor had shifted beneath you. Why? Because she was trying to keep you alive. Alive from whom? Jungkook's face became expressionless. My father. You stared at him. He continued. He believed your family knew too much. Then why am I alive? Jungkook looked at you for a long moment. Because I refused to kill you. You couldn't breathe. You were sent to kill me? Yes. And you didn't? No. Why? He looked away. I don't know. It was the first time you had ever heard uncertainty in his voice. You stepped closer. That's not true. He looked at you. You always know what you're doing. Not when it comes to you. The words hung between you. His breathing changed. You saw his hand tighten around the edge of the desk. What does that mean? It means I should have stayed away from you. Then why didn't you? You felt your heart pounding. Jungkook. I know it's wrong. He stepped backward. I know the way I watch you isn't normal. You're obsessed with me. His silence confirmed it. But his expression wasn't triumphant. It was ashamed. I have tried to stop. Have you? Yes. How? I stayed away from you. For how long? 3 days. You almost laughed despite the tension. That's your idea of staying away? His mouth twitched. Then the sadness returned. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Care about someone without becoming afraid of losing them. That confession changed something. You began seeing the man behind the reputation. Jungkook had grown up surrounded by violence. His father taught him that love created weaknesses. His mother disappeared when he was 12. His older brother died when Jungkook was 19. Nobody had ever taught him how to grieve. So he turned grief into control. Control into power. Power into fear. And now he was terrified that loving you would make him weak again. The problem was that fear was making him dangerous. The attack on the mansion proved it. After the shooting, Jungkook moved you to a secure room. You're staying here. No. His expression hardened. Yes. You can't lock me away. I can. That doesn't mean you should. He stared at you. You don't understand what's happening. Then tell me. Someone inside my organization betrayed me. Who? I don't know. Then find out. I will. Let me help. No. Why? Because if something happens to you, I won't be able to think. His voice had cracked. Only slightly. But you heard it. You're scared. He looked away. Yes. It was the first time he admitted it. That night, you found him sitting alone in the hallway. His knuckles were bleeding. You sat beside him. You're hurt. It's nothing. You always say that. He didn't answer. You took the first aid kit. When you reached for his hand, he stiffened. You don't have to. I know. You cleaned the blood from his knuckles. He watched your fingers. Why are you still here? You looked at him. Because you're not the monster everyone says you are. A bitter smile crossed his face. You don't know that. Neither do you. His eyes became wet. He looked away before you could see. That was the first time you realized how lonely he was. The next morning, your aunt disappeared. Her room was empty. Her phone was smashed. A single envelope remained on the bed. Inside was a photograph of your father. On the back was a message. The truth is under the old church. Jungkook read it twice. We're going. You're coming. Yes. Why? Because I'm not letting you face this alone. The old church stood abandoned at the edge of the city. The air smelled of wet stone and moss. Every step echoed through the empty building. They found a hidden room beneath the altar. Inside was a metal box. Jungkook opened it. Documents filled the box. Names. Dates. Payments. Photographs. Everything connected to his father's organization. And then you saw your father's signature. He had been working undercover. He had gathered evidence to destroy the organization from within. Your aunt had helped him. Jungkook's father had discovered the plan. But there was something else. A final document. Jungkook read it. His face went pale. What is it? He handed it to you. Your father had written a letter. Not to your aunt. Not to the police. To Jungkook. The letter said that if anything happened to him, Jungkook should protect you because he believed Jungkook was the only person in the organization who still had a conscience. You looked at Jungkook. You knew. I didn't know about this letter. You were supposed to protect me. Yes. For how long? Until you were safe. And now? His eyes held yours. Now I don't know how to let you go. You stepped closer. You have to learn. He nodded. I know. The final confrontation came weeks later. Jungkook's father returned. Older. More ruthless. And furious that his son had betrayed him. The confrontation happened inside the mansion where everything had begun. Gunfire echoed through the halls. Security lights flashed. Glass shattered. Jungkook stood between you and his father. His father laughed. You became weak. Jungkook raised his weapon. No. His voice was steady. I became free. His father looked at you. This girl destroyed you. Jungkook shook his head. She showed me what you couldn't. And what's that? That fear isn't strength. For a long moment neither moved. Then Jungkook lowered his weapon. I won't become you. His father was arrested moments later. The organization collapsed within weeks. The mansion became silent. The black cars disappeared. The armed guards were gone. Jungkook sold the property. He dismantled everything his father had built. But destroying the organization did not destroy the memories. Some nights, he still woke from nightmares. Some mornings he stood beside the window with untouched coffee. Sometimes you found him staring at his hands, as if remembering everything they had done. One evening, you found him packing a suitcase. You're leaving. He nodded. I need to disappear for a while. Why? To learn who I am without the empire. You smiled sadly. He stopped. For the first time, he didn't answer immediately. Then he shook his head. No. You looked surprised. Why? Because this time I want you to choose. You stepped closer. And if I choose you? His eyes softened. Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. You reached for his hand. He let you. There was no command. No threat. No gaje. Only two people standing in the quiet remains of a life that had almost destroyed them. Months later, Jungkook opened a small security company under his own name. He refused to carry a weapon unless absolutely necessary. He stopped drinking coffee at 2 a.m. He began sleeping with the curtains open. And when thunderstorms came, he no longer disappeared into the darkness. He sat beside you by the window and listened to the rain. One evening, you asked him whether he regretted meeting you. He smiled. No. Even after everything? Especially after everything. You rested your head against his shoulder. He kissed your hair. The obsession that had once frightened you had become something different. Not possession. Not control. A love that had survived because both of you had finally learned that love could not be forced. Jungkook had spent years believing that protecting someone meant keeping them close, and he learned. Slowly. Painfully. But he learned. Years later, the city still remembered the name Jungkook. Some remembered him as the cold Mafia heir. Some remembered him as the ruthless man who once controlled an empire. But you remembered something else. You remembered the frightened boy hidden behind the dangerous man. The boy who had never learned how to love without fear. And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all. He didn't become innocent. He didn't erase his past. He simply stopped allowing it to decide his future. Outside the window, rain began falling again. Jungkook reached for your hand. This time, there was no hesitation. And when you intertwined your fingers with his, he smiled. Not the cold smile of a Mafia heir. Not the dangerous smile people feared. Just the quiet smile of a man who had finally found peace. Meta description. A cold Mafia heir becomes dangerously obsessed with protecting you, but buried secrets force him to choose between power, fear, and